You want answers?
What's that going to set up?
We've got to go to work.
It's the Strat Attack Show. But we're always wondering what the next two is.
Holy shnikes at work.
That's something I want to know about.
What's your name, scumbag?
Strat Attack Show.
We're on a mission from God.
Here's Rob Smith. Hello everyone, I'm Rob Smith and Smith in the Black with the Tuesday Strat Attack Show where we hop into the ultimate vehicle. So let's take a look here. So anyway, oops, where are we here? So I'm sorry, we're still doing some tech issues. We'll go move that back over. There we go. So here's the thing. So we're coming into the end of the year. So we know most people have had a rough year. And so what we want to see is how do they finish off the year? How do they position themselves into coming into the new year? So as we talk about exhaustion risk. So we had this CPI number up here and then puke, puke, puke. And then today, slight down, lower low, that's a 2. So the question, are you strong enough to go 2 down, 2 up, right? So if we go to the weekly, we know there's a lot of outside weeks. Right, and we saw that during the pandemic, the 3-2 down, where you can really get crushed. But at this point, we don't know. So what we're going to look at is tomorrow's how many 2s do we have on the days. So if we go to QQQ here, and we know QQQ has been the weakest all year, really bad, right? So you can see we're nowhere near not being announced an inside day. Right, so when we open, we're strong enough to take that out, weak enough to take that out. So if we go down to a 60, here, you can see this chop shop. So we had this, and if you look at these 2 hours here, and then 4 or 5 hours inside of that. How do we get out of that? Do we go out here and stay out? What do we do? Because we know that the Qs have been weaker. Right, and there's your 3-2 down on the week. So you can look at all this. And then if you look at the diamonds were a lot stronger to go all the way and take this out. And yet, now we have all these outside weeks. Right, and we're coming into the end of the year. We know that a lot of people will be taking time off, or a lot of people will be stressing on how we're going to get out of this. But for the most part, what we want to do is I'm going to pull up the scans. And so what we want to know is, how many weeks are being taken out to the upside, how many weeks are taken up to the downside. And so we go volume, and it says yesterday's high, but these are all weeks. So for the weeks, who's taking last week's highs out? Well, it's Slob and Halliburton. Have we known about all that stuff all week? Or I'm sorry, all year? We have. So we do have OIH. Let me pull this up. So what this tells us, if we have a mix like this, is that we can have the broader averages do nothing, right? But if we go to OIH, and still an inside week, but getting closer to it. XLE here, inside week. You got some distance to not being inside week and all that kind of stuff. But what we want to see is, do we have everything going in the same direction? If we don't, then we can expect, some chop in the broader stuff. So here, once again, who's taking out last week's highs? Not much we've heard of. CVI, that's more energy. All that kind of stuff. But then if we go here, who's taking out last week's lows? Oh boy, Tesla. And we've been all over this Tesla. Apple, Amazon, that's a big deal. NVIDIA, we've got MU earnings coming out tomorrow. Intel, Palantir, Google. This is a big deal because it's been telling us the theme all year. Where do we want to be? We want to be long energy. We want to be short tech. So let's take a look at, say, Goog. Okay, so Google on the week, still taking it out daily, closer to being 2-2 back up if they want to, do something. So we're always looking forward to, let's say that Goog goes 2-2 on the day up, 2 down, 2 up, but then it comes on Thursday and goes boom, and they all go 2-2 back down. So waiting for things to set up is very important. A lot of people want to do everything every day. I'm like, all right, well, if they all do that, because you have Microsoft here, slight 2 down, but closer to 2-2 reversal up, right? Higher high, lower low. And you go to the weekly here. So we prefer these things to fail, start puking. But, it might take a day. We don't know. So what I'm going to say is that, as we watch these things play out, we're watching all the time frames. One of the biggest mistakes traders make is not watching multiple time frames. So we know that this is a 3. If there's going to be a huge Santa Claus rally, they'd become rallying right through this stuff. We're not seeing that just yet. Or puke, 3-2 down because this buying is being rejected. And that's what a 3 is important to understand. This buying is being rejected. And if that continues to be rejected, these things get murdered, right? But if they start to come back through, well, we don't know that too. So, okay, now we're back into this broadening formation, right? You could have your Santee rally into here, but that would have to happen. Right now it hasn't happened. But it changed continuity on the daily by being green on the day. So a lot of things have done that. So we want to see if we go 2 down by taking out the lows, 2 up, and it might only be to fill the gap here. But then you got gap here. You got all this kind of stuff, and you're coming into the end of the year. So when we come to the end of the year, you can have a new year, which means we have new continuity levels on the year, the quarter, the month, the day, the quarter, all that kind of stuff. But we've got a few weeks to go, and we want to see how it plays out because, and I'm going to do the macro review and the macro introduction to 2023, but the macro review of 2022, we nailed it. I mean, the energy was up, the tech was down. We knew that. And so understanding that the strat is going to put you in the right position. And, one of the things that is always challenging is that, trying to put people into their lane. Saying, well, Rob, you talk about a lot of things. I'm like, yeah, I know I do. But if you look at just the macro and say, okay, here's my wheelhouse. It was long energy all year. It was short tech all year because of the macro. You did great. I mean, you really did. And so when we come into that, I'll review that to show it to you to make sure that you can see what to look for in the new year. Now, unfortunately, in the new year, if we start rallying back, we're going to have a lot of inside years, and that's going to be rough. But going into tomorrow, how many 2s do we have? How do you get out of this? Let's go to the Qs. How do you get out of this? How are you not an inside day? How do you take that out, or how do you take that out? And that's what we want to know. So, we'll let them open, and especially this year, I've talked about this a lot, and I pulled back a lot on the opening and saying that, look, let them open. And the good thing is, the bad thing is what we don't want is gap and then sit. Well, we're going to open and then move through different levels because that stops people out. That tells us what they're doing. And so tomorrow, I'm going to say that outside of some news, we're going to have an inside day to open, right? So let the 60s open. 60s are still a major signal. The best move today that we have was knowing that we're a little tight here on the SPY, but on the 30, this one here, 2230, triangle the out, and people ask me what that means all the time. I'm like, look, if you're short in any of this stuff here, you got stopped out. The question is, be strong enough to take these guys out? Probably not. Then boom, 2-2 reversal, boom. That was the biggest move of the day, right? Period. And then chop shop in here. You got your slight higher high, which is good because that tells us they've tested the highs. Maybe they test the lows. Start puking. We just don't want that to be a gap. We've got Nike earnings out that's coming up. So we'll see how that goes. That's probably on the gap list in the morning. And Tesla is just getting destroyed. And I got to tell you, man, when Tesla was blasting off, I had Tesla Q guys that I would talk to on the phone, and these guys had been trading for 10 years, and they blew out. They broke their rules. They said, this is how I trade, this is what I do, and they completely broke their rules and were gone. And were asking me do you want me to buy your systems and all that kind of stuff. And their families were, disappointed, obviously. So that's why we traded the Strat. But I can't tell you, I'm like, all right. I was joking around a little bit earlier on Twitter. And be like, oh, honey, I wasn't wrong. I was just early. See this? This thing carried out so many people. Tesla Q, and they tweet that out as overvalued and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, all you had to do was wait for the signal right there, and that's what we've had. So Tesla's still going to the low. So, we're coming into the end of the year, like I said, and once we start the new year, we're going to have all new continuity levels, all brand new, brand new, and signals. And what we do know is that the SPY is an outside year. And the thing about turning around all the macro stuff, and I'll get that into the macro vid, is that we're nowhere near bullishness on a macro basis. Nowhere near it. And so I'm not going to say it's a monster crash or anything like that, because continuity can take over, right? But as far as signals, nowhere near it. Nowhere near it. The 3 can always be a 3. The 2 down on the NASDAQ, you're nowhere near turning that around. But you can have continuity, and that's your hopes. But right now, there's your SPY monthly. We're still looking for this 3-monther. Take them out right here. As I said, it's the end of the year, so we don't know how many participants are here. I'm up in the Hamptons, not answering the phone, or what I'm going to do. But we would prefer this to come down and test this. And if you were, a bull, you would prefer that we do this sooner than later. Otherwise, we come to January, you got another year of pain. So on that note, I'm going to leave it at that. So I'm Rob Smith, Smith in the Black, and if it's Tuesday, it's the Strat Attack Show.